Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather on the 23rd day of May 2021. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first on the river breakup map, we've got, a yellow area there along the Sagwan River, and warmer temperatures last couple of days is now loosened the ice up enough that a jam is formed on the river, and that's caused water levels to rise, and flooding may occur if the ice jam doesn't break. Water levels will continue to rise and flooding may occur. It's just a flood watch out for the Sagwan River, currently out now through Tuesday afternoon for possible flooding there, and the affected area would be possibly areas of the Dalton Highway. If flooding does occur, that'd be the impacted area would be the Dalton Highway. Otherwise, the other two rivers up there, Colville, looking pretty, really haven't started breaking up at all, so mostly ice. And then south of the mountains there, the Kobuk and Noatak rivers have a little bit of ice left on them, but the breakup season is about over for all the other rivers south of the Berks Range. So moving on to the hazardous weather graphic, no watches, warnings, or advisories out anywhere in the state for the next couple of days, the exception being the flood watch that I just mentioned out for the eastern north slope up there along the Sagwan River through Tuesday afternoon for possible flooding. And from there, taking a look at satellite imagery, low pressure frontal system stands out quite vividly there over the southern Bering Sea. Looks like it's centered almost on top of Adak, with the front at the last shot there just about passing Nikolsky over Unmak Island and southwest of the Pribilof Islands. That bringing some fairly moderate rains, nothing heavy, but anywhere from a quarter to a half an inch from the Alaska Peninsula, western Alaska Peninsula to Unalaska Island. Upslope areas could have had a little more than that on the south side of the islands, and upslope areas of the Alaska Peninsula. Also winds, gale force winds associated with that front in advance of the front, gusting 50 to 55 miles an hour for peak wind gusts at mid-afternoon for Cold Bay and Unalaska at Dutch Harbor and those areas. Gusts 47 miles an hour at St. Paul Island and St. George Island, as well as Port Hayden, and 40 miles an hour kicking up there at Cape Newenham there on the southwest coast, but still just thickening cirrus is all that's reached the coastline there. It's a pretty nice day. You can see a lot of clear skies there along the southwest coast, Nunivak Island, some sunshine, Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, on up into the interior. Now there are some afternoon cumulus, Q clouds and showers developing due to the afternoon heating over the mid to upper Tanana Valley 40-mile country, with some light rain showers occurring in areas there. Let's see, Chicken had about 0.05 of an inch of precipitation in the last 12 hours in the form of light shower activity, as well as Northway and Eureka. There, also in the Copper River Basin, western Copper River Basin, picked up about 0.05 of an inch of shower activity today. Showers also for the eastern North Gulf Coast at Yakutat and Panhandle. More extensive shower activity. Rainfall amounts a little bit heavier, but nothing too terribly heavy, with Juneau picking up about 0.2 of an inch of precipitation today, as well as Klawock down on Prince of Wales Island, 0.2 of an inch in the last 12 hours of rainfall there. Otherwise, heaviest wind and rain out with the Bering Sea system out there. Some light precipitation in the form of rain or snow along the Arctic coast, with a couple of weak disturbance off the Arctic coast up there, right along the coastline, but nothing amounted to more than 1/100th of an inch water equivalent in the last 12 hours up there. But lots of sunshine along the Yukon River, and some scattered shower activity with a weak trough there extending down from the eastern Arctic coast, and another trough there just grazing the southeast interior Wrangell Mountains, and showers. Upper low pressure will keep a chance of showers in over the Panhandle for the next couple of days, and we'll see that front tonight edges eastward, and should lose the gale force winds possibly at some point tonight toward morning. And just looking at small craft advisories for tomorrow morning, could be some persistent gales there up towards St. Matthew Island, where gradient's a little tighter there, but winds won't be so strong behind the front, with the main gradient south of the Aleutians, but still a lot of clouds, areas of light rain, fog, showers, unsettled, a little breezy there for the entire Aleutian chain. Otherwise, the interior, fair skies, high pressure dominating the interior now, with less shower activity, maybe some clearing for the panhandle, and a weak trough just may bring a few skiffs of flurries or light snow showers of the central western Arctic coastal areas of Licktock up toward Point Barrow. And then that kicks off to the east tomorrow and affects mainly the east side, much like today, your day tomorrow up there around Dead Horse to Barter Island, Kaktovik. High pressure settles in, not too bad on the surface pressures there for this time of year, 1,033 millibars right over the north slope. Light winds could lead to low clouds and fog, especially along the coast there. But south of the mountains, looking really good for Monday. Temperatures 60s to lower 70s, mid 70s possibly in some areas. Especially southern Alaska, south of the Alaska Range into the Susitna Valley, Kenai Peninsula area, and possibly even Kuskokwim Valley. Kodiak looking nice, sunshine, light winds, and showers again increase for the Panhandle tomorrow afternoon, and rain advances up to possibly as far east up the Alaska Peninsula as Port Heiden, maybe Sandpoint, won't reach Chignik, and chance of rain increases west side of Nunivak Island. And periods of rain continue for the Pribilofs. A lot of showers and clouds for the Aleutian, southern Bering Sea, with that low locked into the area out there. And then for Tuesday, not actually the original front washes out into that trough over the Alaska Peninsula there to just south of St. Matthew Island. Another system kind of comes up, redevelops the front there with that second low, 993 millibars, west of Nikolsky. And still showers over the western central Aleutians, more rain for the Unalaska Nikolsky area. And the interior, less of a chance, less clouds, less shower chances, mainly almost restricted to the border there south of Eagle into the Yukon, but showers continue for the Panhandle, mostly cloudy, kind of cool, and showery for the Panhandle. Another system drops down from the Arctic there, bringing chance of light snow or flurries against central western Arctic coast. Otherwise, clouds, light winds up that way. High 65 to 75 in the interior, a little warmer now up in the central interior in the Tanana Valley area, all the way down into south central Alaska, Kodiak, mostly sunny. Looking at the lows tonight, 40s for the Panhandle, mid 30s to mid 40s for the southern Alaska area near 40 Bristol Bay. Lower 40s there for Kodiak Island, mid to upper 30s Kuskokwim Valley, and in the 30s to maybe a shade below freezing in some areas there in the central interior. Upper 20s, lower 30s Brooks Range, in the 20s North Slope and Arctic Coast, right around 30 degrees plus or minus there for the northern Bering Sea Seward Peninsula. 35 to 40 for the Bering Sea Aleutians, and lower 40s Alaska Peninsula. Highs for tomorrow, 65 to 75 southern Alaska, near 70 you can see there McGrath, Talkeetna, upper 60s Bristol Bay, and Kenai Peninsula could see lower 70s showing up. 50s though for the Panhandle, near 60 Kodiak Island, 65 to 70 central interior, lower 30s Arctic coast, lower 40s Bering Sea, St. Lawrence Island, Pribilofs, 40s for the Aleutians, and near 50 for the Alaska Peninsula. Lows the following morning, 30s to mostly 40s. We'll be in the 40s for the Panhandle, up mid to upper 30s Copper River Basin, and 38 to 44 for the central interior, 25 to 30 for the north slope on out to the Arctic coast, 30s in the Bering Sea. Highs on Tuesday, more 70s showing up here, 65 to 70 Susitna Valley, 70 75 for the Kuskokwim Valley, near 70 Bristol Bay, but still in the 50s for the Panhandle, near 60 Kodiak Island, and 70s showing up now in the central interior there, especially the west central areas, lower 30s but above freezing except for Barrow on the Arctic coast up there, and 40s out over the Bering Sea. Whoop, there we go. Let me back it up one there. You can see lower 60s for the Nome area, but Shishmaref in the mid 40s, Kotzebue in the lower 50s, and lower 40s St. Lawrence Island, but near 70 there at Bethel for your high on Tuesday afternoon. So very nice conditions over the interior.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
First line weather graphic Monday morning. We've got IFR, Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast, and down around into the southeastern Chukchi Sea there, but marginal VFR north side of the Seward Peninsula. It looks like VFR from Kotzebue into the interior, and maybe some marginal VFR, Wrangell Mountains, eastern Copper River Basin, and the eastern North Gulf Coast, areas of IFR in the Panhandle, IFR southwest Kodiak Island, and along and south of the Alaska Peninsula, and then quite an area of IFR out over the Bering Sea, but the northern Bering, not too bad. We've got VFR along the southwest coast, including Nunivak Island, some IFR north shore of St. Lawrence Island, and then moving on to the afternoon, it's not much of a big change, except some improvement. It becomes marginal VFR for the Aleutian, southern Bering Sea. No change for the Alaska Peninsula, northern Bering Sea, IFR, except up around St. Lawrence Island. Got some VFR that continues along the southwest coast. Conditions deteriorate for Nunivak Island with some marginal VFR. And now IFR just off the western Arctic coast, otherwise marginal there, down to the Brooks Range. Interior stays VFR, as well as northern Kodiak Island, Fognac Island, south central Alaska, Prince William Sound. IFR, though, right along the coast of the Panhandle and the central coast, marginal VFR for the inside waters. And for the day on Tuesday morning, IFR for the Panhandle, and marginal for Yakutat with the North Gulf Coast, VFR, marginal VFR just to the south of the eastern North Gulf Coast. Southern Kodiak Island, marginal VFR with Sitkinak in some IFR there along the south side of the Alaska Peninsula. Good batch of IFR out over the Bering Sea into the central western Aleutians. Same pattern up north there, North Slope Arctic coast, starting the day out with IFR right down to the Brooks Range. Interior VFR, but improves pretty good for the North Slope. Even the eastern western Arctic coast becomes VFR in the afternoon. Central areas stay a little lower, keep the marginal conditions there. But now the Brooks Range southward to Kodiak Island, Prince William Sound, all VFR, southwest coast VFR, Nunivak Island marginal. Same thing for St. Lawrence Island. Pribilof's in the IFR zone. Central western Aleutians are from Adak westward, marginal VFR, and then Atka Island eastward, mostly IFR into the Alaska Peninsula. And for marginal for the Panhandle, for passes, Anatuvik, IFR to start, marginal into the afternoon, could possibly become VFR. But look for an improving trend from the morning hours to the afternoon, early evening for both Anatuvik and Adigan. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, good VFR tomorrow. Clear skies for rainy, good VFR, and probably windy. Isabel and Mentasta, Sealing's visibilities possibly unlimited. Definitely VFR though for all three of those passes. Mentasta possibly maybe starting out marginal possibly, and then becoming VFR into the afternoon. But otherwise, Tanita VFR, Portage, good VFR tomorrow, and Chilkoot and White starting out IFR, but trending up, improving slowly to marginal VFR. Could go VFR, but right now I'll just kind of stick it with the marginal VFR. And for the freezing levels, 6,000 to 8,000 feet there along the west coast, or with the 6,000 feet up to the northern Seward Peninsula, just north of the Bering Strait, 2,000 feet there right along the Brooks Range. 4,000 feet over the Panhandle, a little cooler out over the western central Bering Sea and Aleutians, down to 2,000 feet there. And for icing, really not too much of a threat, just a possibility there from Nunivak Island across the northern Bering and a narrow band of some isolated icing. Same thing for the Alaska Peninsula and Alaska Island and the Panhandle, possible mixed icing, just a elevated threat there, the potential for it. Otherwise, that's it icing-wise around the remainder of the state, icing free. And jet stream showing high pressure aloft right over the southwest interior on up into the Bering Strait, and on the top of the ridge there, coming over the top, we've got 85 knot west northwesterlies diminish and take a turn to the south. So we're looking at north 50 to 65 knots, strongest over Prince William Sound, and a disturbance dropping southward there. Off the coast of the Panhandle, one over the southern Panhandle, keeps shower chances in the forecast. Westerlies 120 knots near the central Aleutians. And at 9,000 feet south to southeast, 32 as high as 65 knots there along the Alaska Peninsula. Westerlies 25 to 30, maybe westerlies 25 east central Bering or Arctic coast. And at 3,000 feet, 30 to 45 knot winds in the Bering Sea. So look for considerable moderate chop for the Alaska Peninsula.
So that Galena flood back in 2013 was at the intersection of weather and climate. Rick, I often get questions about the difference between weather and climate. How do you distinguish between the two?
Well, that's a really good question, John. One of the analogies that I like to use, the wardrobe analogy. So in my closet, in my dresser, I've got clothes appropriate for 90-degree weather and 50 below weather. That's the climate part of my wardrobe. But what I'm going to put on today, am I going to wear my Hawaiian shirt because it's going to be a hot July day, or am I going to wear my bunny boots because it's going to be 50 below? That's the weather part of my wardrobe.
You know, there's another interesting analogy. I've heard it said that climate is like your personality, whereas weather is like the mood you're in today. It's like that old John Denver song. Some days are diamonds and some days are stones. That's how weather works.
Of course, it's really a continuous range. Just as the Galena ice jam flooding was the result of a weather event, that ice jam, up against that cold spring, a climate event. So too with less impactful events. For instance, a daily record high temperature is a weather event, one day's high. But we put that in a climate context, say comparing to a century or more of individual temperatures on a given date.
So these extreme events like record high temperatures also happen on the seasonal time scale. Just in the last few years, we've had what was called a marine heat wave in the waters south of Alaska, the Gulf of Alaska and the Bering Sea. But the water temperatures in that area set new records in 2015 and 2016.
And most Alaskans are acutely aware that big wildfire seasons are becoming more and more common, most recently in 2015, and the frequency of million-acre seasons has doubled since the early 1990s.
Just this past winter, we had another event in the Bering Sea. The ice extent in the Bering was lower than it had ever been in the last 150 years. That's about as far back as the good records go. There'd never been another year like this one in the Bering with so little sea ice. That had major impacts on the communities along the west coast and the northwest coast.
So, John, what have you been hearing from folks around town about these kind of climate extremes?
I've heard from a number of people who've been here a long time that winters just aren't what they used to be. The average temperatures are higher than they were back in the 1960s and 1970s, and we just don't get the extreme cold days, the days down in the minus 50s or even the minus 60s that we used to experience in Fairbanks back in the 1960s, 1970s, and even into the 1980s.
Well, and it's not just winter either. 2016 and 2017, the summers brought unusually muggy, humid weather to Fairbanks. We're not used to thinking of that in interior Alaska, but record high humidities during the summer months. As in the winter, we've had a significant increase in freezing rain events, since about 2000. So much so that DOT has changed their road treatment strategy, and now we have the school district building in winter rain days into the calendar. And of course, we all need good weather forecasts for these high impact weather events.
We know, though, that weather forecasts are sometimes wrong just 3 or 4 days in advance. So if these weather forecasts and the models they're based on can't pick up events like freezing rain 3 or 4 days ahead, how can we believe what they say about climate for the future?
Well, that's a really good question, John. And I think the important thing to remember is that parts of the system are predictable.
So climate models can't give you weather for particular days or even for particular months or years. They actually predict averages. These are averages over periods of a decade or two, or even averages over periods of several years. So they don't give us the month-to-month information that we might want. What are they telling us about the future, though?
Well, these climate models are telling us on the decades-long time frames that warmer winters are going to become more common. We're going to have more frequent, very low sea ice years with late freeze up and early meltout. And the same will be true on Alaskan rivers. We'll have more frequent seasons when freeze up is late and break up is early.
One of the other common threads in these climate model predictions is that heavy rain events and heavy snow events will become more common in the future. That's actually a prediction that the models make for mid-latitudes as well as for high latitudes in areas like Alaska. So we can expect the heavy downpours to become heavier and the heavy winter snows to become heavier than we've been used to. They're also predicting more frequent freezing rain events, getting back to what you talked about earlier. These events that might have happened just once every year or two in the past could actually end up happening several times in a winter in the future, according to the climate models.
And it is important to remember that even in a warming world, there are still going to be seasons and years that are colder than the average, but these cold seasons will become less and less common. So, John, maybe I don't need to have those bunny boots in my closet anymore?
Well, at least you won't need to wear them as often as you did in the past.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Sea ice analysis. Again, not a lot different from yesterday, except maybe a little more expansive, that area of thinner ice off the western Arctic coast there up to the central area, and also a little bit more expanded in Mackenzie River Bay over toward demarcation point there. Otherwise, not much change. Still slowly doing a slow dissolve over the northern Bering Sea in toward the Bering Strait, especially eastern Norton Sound. Coastal water forecasts for the Panhandle tomorrow. We've got light northwest winds 10 to 15 knots, or 10 knots on the north coast out of the northwest, 15 knots south coast seas running 4 to 6 feet, and the central and southern inside waters northwest 10 to 15 knots, 2 to 3 foot seas. Lynn Canal, northern inside water areas south 15. And for Tuesday, inside waters of the Panhandle there, all southeast 10 knots, 2 foot seas. Light winds also on the outer coastline, southeast on the south coast at 10 and south at 10 knots for the north coast. Seas running 4 to 5 feet. And for the Prince William Sound zone, eastern North Gulf Coast, we've got a northwest wind at 10 knots in the forecast, with seas running 2 to 3 feet. Cook Inlet, north to northwest, 10 knots, seas 2 to 3 feet. Kamishak Bay, Barren Islands, northwest at 10 knots, seas 3 feet. Light winds everywhere, even the western North Gulf Coast. Northwest at 10 knots, or northeast at 10 knots with 4 foot seas. And for Tuesday, light wind conditions continue. Cook Inlet, north or variable to north at 10 knots, seas 3 feet. Same thing for Prince William Sound, variable winds 10 knots, seas 2, 3, variable winds 10 knots for the North Gulf Coast as well, really laid down there at 10 knots with 3 to 4 foot seas. And the Barren Islands, west 15, seas 4 feet. Kodiak Island, southeasterlies at 10 knots tomorrow. Otherwise, south 15, Sitkinak to Castle Cape, small craft advisories for the Alaska Peninsula. Southeast winds 25 knots, 8 to 10 foot seas. And for Bristol Bay, southeast at 15. And for Tuesday, Bristol Bay, southeast at 10, seas stay around 4 feet though, and small craft advisories continue for the Alaska Peninsula for east to southeast winds at 25 knots, 7 to 9 foot seas. 20 knot winds from Castle Cape to Sitkinak from the southeast. Kodiak Island, southwest 15 knots, seas 3 to 5 feet. Fox Islands tomorrow, small craft advisories. Unalaska Island, southeast 25. Unmak Island, south to southeast 25 to 30 knots. Adak and Atka, 15 to 20 knot winds from the south and southwest. West 15, Amchitka Island, western Aleutians, south at 15, seas just under 10 feet. Outlook for Tuesday, from Shemya to Kiska, west at 15, seas 6 feet, and 5 foot seas for Amchitka Island with a nice southwest breeze at 15 knots. Adak and Atka, south to southwest 20 to 25 knots. Fox Island, small craft advisories, south to southeast 30 knots, seas running 10 to 12 feet. And for the southwest coast, southeast 25 knots, south of Nunivak Island, Yukon Delta coast, east 25, small craft advisories there. Also for the Pribilofs and St. Matthew Island for east-southeasterlies, 25 to 30 knots, 10 to 13 foot seas. Small craft advisories for St. Lawrence Island, east winds at 30 knots. Those drop down to 20 knots from the east St. Lawrence Island, southwest coast, southeast 20 knots, seas 6 feet. Small craft advisories for the Pribilof, St. Paul, St. George, southeast 30 with 10 foot seas, St. Matthew Island east of 25. And up there along the eastern stretch of the Beaufort Sea coast, of the east side there of the Arctic coast, west-southwest 10 to 15 knots, and then about 20 knots on the central coast from the west, and then back down to 15 knots on the west side, turning northeast from Cape Beaufort down to Wales, northeast winds 15 to 20 knots. And for Tuesday, east 15 knots, Wales to Cape Thompson. Otherwise, the western Arctic coast, winds will be east at 15. Light variable winds at 10 knots for the central and eastern Arctic coast. And for tonight, disturbance cutting across the Arctic Ocean there may clip the central coast, Point Barrow area, maybe a few flurries, and that's about it. Otherwise, variably cloudy up there with light winds to mostly clear over the interior. Lingering showers over the eastern Alaska Range, Northway Toke area, and the Panhandle, still a chance of showers, but kind of a drying period tonight. Front moves with rain and wind into the Alaska Peninsula and unsettled over the southern Bering and the Aleutians for the next couple of days with that low setup out there. And showers increase tomorrow afternoon for the Panhandle as upper level of pressure stays over the area, and the eastern Alaska Range as well. Chance of rain or snow eastern Arctic coast. Otherwise sunny and mild in the interior, 65 to 75 for highs in some areas. And looking pretty good on Tuesday as well.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.